What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a little discussion around mods. Modding in general has always been, I would say at least for this channel anyway, a little bit of an odd thing to approach for a variety of different reasons, and I would say that I've found my views on them changing a little bit over time as modding itself continues to evolve. And I kind of just wanted to talk a bit about that today. So for those who may be completely unaware, I don't really have any intention to review mods, and yet, I do enjoy them. I'm not opposed to using them. I think they're a great way to take a game you may or I suppose may not be enjoying as a baseline, and then of course tweak and customize it to your heart's content. And there's obviously a lot of value in that for a lot of people, as it lets them get more out of the games they are hopefully already enjoying. Now, where that gets tricky for me personally is that I'm not really interested in reviewing things that don't typically cost money. And yes, we'll get to paid mods here in just a moment. That's part of what I want to talk about, actually. But like I said, it's always been kind of an odd situation around mods because they are, again, typically free. I'm not really trying to review things that are free and done on a volunteer basis even, as I personally just don't feel particularly comfortable being hypercritical on a large platform of a project that is, done by volunteers essentially and is of no cost to you, the person playing with it. That just, personally rubs me the wrong way, so as a result, I do not review them. For games where modding is a really big deal, I do of course try to mention them. I've even made some videos for things like Baldur's Gate 3 talking about mods I enjoy, but having done this as long as I have, I'm also aware that, some people would appreciate me simply promoting those things, but given how much my normal work already keeps me very busy, it's just made sense to mostly kind of not exactly ignore them, as I do, have fun using them on occasion, but I guess you could say sidestep them for the most part. But the past few years especially, I would say in no small part thanks to Bethesda's Verified Creator program and the rise of paid mods, the situation is a bit different than when I initially established that baseline, and while it's not really going to change my fundamental approach, there were a couple of things worth mentioning. So if you're unaware, paid mods have been around as a concept for quite some time. Bethesda themselves has messed around with a few variations of it, from the Creation Club, which was technically speaking official content made by contractors, you could say, the modders that is, to their most recent iteration as of I think it was 2023, with the Verified Creator program effectively giving the people who make these mods and are part of that program royalties. But straight away, I would say there's plenty of back and forth about, whether paid mods should be a thing. There are a lot of people who don't feel that that should be the case. I get that. I will say that personally, I've seen the tide shift on that a little bit. It doesn't seem to bother nearly as many people these days. But regardless of whether or not they are free or paid, most of these mods are relatively small in scope, and honestly, I don't think really warrant a review outside of information that would be readily apparent simply by looking at it. But to sort of start bringing some of this home, then enters Kingath Creations. So I recently had the opportunity to speak with Kingath Creations, primarily Kingath himself, as well as another member of their team as well. And this is where things get a bit interesting, because Kingath Creations is a member of the Verified Creator program for Bethesda. However, they are a little bit different even then because they are effectively just like a company. I believe they said they were 11 in total. They have a company, they're getting royalties from these creations that they've done with Bethesda. You'll know them for things like the Watchtower one for Starfield, the Bard's College expansion for Skyrim, the East Empire thing for Skyrim, Sim Settlements for Fallout 4, and a couple of others as well. Now personally, I have enjoyed a couple of those mods. I did not realize they were all from the same company. And combining all of those things, now you've got a slightly different situation that I am a little more comfortable reviewing on the channel personally. That is to say, paid mods, meaning that, the person using the mod would have theoretically paid for it. Not only are these paid mods, but they tend to be larger creations. Not all of them. I know their Hell's Gate one was relatively small, but a lot of their creations are are pretty big in size, meaning that a video covering, all the content that was available would be useful on its own, and the fact that this is a company of people doing this, meaning that there is simply put a higher level of quality and even cooperation with Bethesda in there, to me, it would make sense to review these. It seems like that would potentially be beneficial for everybody involved. So that is kind of the biggest thing I guess I wanted to mention, is that now, having spoken to these guys and also just having a proper understanding of what they are doing in full, I think it makes a lot of sense to potentially give a short review at least of the things they are doing, or the things that I want to check out from them moving forward into the future. But what's more, however, I did also want to just clarify this somewhere, I guess, and the end of this video seemed like an appropriate place to do that, which is that there are a lot of big expansion type overhaul mods that a lot of people want me to look at and cover on the channel. And the good news is, some of those I would like to cover. Enderall is probably the one people ask me about the most, and I do plan on getting to it eventually. However, the catch with those mods being that they are, usually essentially a full game unto themselves, and that is going to take me a lot of time to spend on something that is still ultimately not going to be a review, because things like Enderall are free, and while I still want to take a look at and highlight those types of larger mods, I'm still not trying to review them if they don't cost anything. But going forward, I suppose if I see larger mods coming from a reputable source that is more or less a company that has a proven track record, I am more open to taking a look at those in the style of a proper review than I have been previously. So while that type of content will almost certainly still be very rare for the foreseeable future, basically there's some stuff I want to do in this space. There are larger mods that people have been asking me forever to take a look at that I do plan on, still taking a look at in a non-review fashion, as has always been the case. But in the case of Kingath specifically, I really don't see any reason not to go ahead and review those, where it makes sense to do so, obviously. But I suppose that is pretty well it for this particular video. I kind of just wanted to point out that there are some things changing in this particular space, but mostly I'm just going to keep an eye out and continue to monitor this stuff and see how I feel about it on a case-by-case basis. But my focus will, as ever, continue to be on, of course, full regular game releases, mind you. But that is pretty much going to do it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video, got something out of it, I suppose. I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of this down in the comment section below, which of course means to comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.